Hello everyone, and welcome to Accel channel. Following up on our last discussion, today we'll once again focus on something familiar yet largely unknown to us. Dust. Is it just dust? You could say so, but the answer is no. Among the dust particles you breathe in, a tiny fraction might be the remnants of stars that have traveled hundreds of millions of years from the far reaches of space. Surprising, isn't it? Dust is an aggregate of small particles from various origins. A deeper truth than you might imagine could be hidden within it. Are you all ready? Then let's dive into the abyss of dust today and search for fascinating truths. On this channel, we respect your intellectual curiosity above all. Feel free to stop watching whenever you like. Don't feel obligated to finish it, let your curiosity guide you. First, let's talk about what dust is. Dust is a collection of fine particles that float in the air or accumulate on surfaces, such as floors and furniture. Its composition varies greatly depending on the location and environment. Now, let's look at house dust, which is what most people commonly see. The first is fiber debris. Fiber debris refers to fine fragments that come from clothing, bedding, furniture, etc., such as cotton, wool and synthetic fibers. The second is skin fragments. Skin fragments, dandruff, dead skin, from humans and pets are shed due to metabolism. These are also prone to being allergens. Let's pause here. The interesting words metabolism and allergen have appeared. You probably have a vague idea, but don't know much in depth, do you? Let's delve deeper. Metabolism is a series of functions that occur in our bodies to sustain life, such as converting food into energy and replacing old things with new ones. It mainly consists of two processes, anabolism, which synthesizes substances, and catabolism, which breaks down substances to extract energy. Here are two examples of catabolism: decomposition, digestion and absorption. This is the process where proteins, lipids and carbohydrates are broken down into amino acids, fatty acids and monosaccharides by enzymes and absorbed from the small intestine. Glycolysis. Absorbed glucose is broken down into pyruvate through more than 10 enzymatic reactions in the cytoplasm, producing a small amount of ATP. Next, here are two examples of anabolism: synthesis, protein synthesis. Based on the genetic information of DNA, amino acids are combined in ribosomes to synthesize proteins necessary for the body, enzymes, structural proteins, etc. Storage. Excess glucose is stored as glycogen in the liver and muscles, and fatty acids are stored as triglycerides in fat cells. We've taken a deep dive into metabolism. Have you deepened your understanding? We could explore it further, but we will stop here for today. Let's return to the examples of house dust. The third is the corpses and feces of mites. The corpses and feces of mites, which eat dust, are the main cause of allergies, allergens. The fourth is mold spores. Mold spores are released into the air when mold grows in bathrooms, kitchens, and damp places. Another interesting word has appeared here: what exactly are spores? Let's delve a little deeper. Spores are structural bodies consisting of a single cell, or a small number of cells, produced by molds, fungi, ferns, mosses, algae, etc., for reproduction, dispersal, or dormancy in adverse environments. Now, let's look at the reasons why spores are released. Reason 1: dispersal to spread genes over a wide area, looking for places where fungi can grow, places with nutrients and water. Reason 2: reproduction to increase the species and leave the next generation. Reason 3: survival. To endure in a dormant state when environmental conditions worsen, such as dryness or lack of nutrients. Next, let's look at the process of mold spore release. The topic is getting a little complicated, so I'll avoid further delving into it. Process 1, formation. Spores are produced in spore-forming organs, for example, conidiophores of Aspergillus, arising from mold hyphae, through cell division and cytoplasmic differentiation. Process 2, maturation and drying. As spores mature, their cell walls harden, internal water decreases, and they enter a dormant state. Process 3, mechanical release. There are passive release by wind and active release, and some molds, for example, basidiomycetes, have physical mechanisms that cleverly utilize changes in water pressure and surface tension to instantly blow off spores. Process 4, dispersal. Released spores, due to their minuteness and lightness, float in the air for a long time and are carried far away by the wind. Now, let's delve into allergens, but haven't you all been curious about something? Yes, that is, there are people who are allergic to animals and people who are not. Also, there are types of dander that become allergens and types that do not. Let's delve deeper. The difference between dander that becomes an allergen, and dander that does not. Dander itself is a clump of shed skin cells, but whether dander acts as an allergen depends on the presence or absence of specific proteins attached to or contained in that dander. The difference in whether a person has a pet allergy or not is due to the difference in whether an individual's immune system recognizes a specific protein, allergen, as a harmful foreign substance. A predisposition to allergies, atopy, is inherited genetically. People with such a predisposition, atopy, tend to have an exaggerated immune response to foreign substances, and B cells that recognize allergens tend to work actively. Differences between people with allergies and those without. When an allergen, for example, CatFel-D1, enters the body of a person with allergies, the immune system perceives it as an excessive threat and produces a large amount of IgA antibodies specific to this allergen. When an allergen enters the body of a person without allergies, the immune system usually processes it as harmless, or produces only a small amount of antibodies other than IgA, such as Ig. The produced IgA antibodies bind to the surface of mast cells and basophils throughout the body, sensitizing these cells. The next time the same allergen enters again and binds to IgA antibodies on the surface of mast cells, degranulation occurs, and a large amount of chemical mediators, mainly histamine, stored in the cells are released. Released histamine binds to receptors in the nasal mucosa, airways, and skin, causing allergic symptoms such as vasodilation, itching, sneezing, runny nose, and bronchial constriction. Now, let's return to the examples of house dust. The fifth is combustion products. Oil mist generated during cooking and tobacco smoke particles, tar, from smoking also become house dust. An interesting word has appeared again. What is tar? Those who smoke are familiar with it, but surprisingly, they don't know the specifics, do they? Let's delve deep. Tobacco smoke is a complex mixture of gaseous components and particulate components, tar. Process of smoke particle formation. Process 1, thermal decomposition. Tobacco leaves, mainly cellulose, nicotine, sugars, etc., are decomposed by the heat of the flame in an oxygen-poor environment, changing into countless volatile substances, gases, that are completely different from their original structure. Process 2, cooling and condensation. These highly volatile gaseous substances mix with the relatively cooler air in the center of the cigarette or during inhalation, and are rapidly cooled. Process 3, nucleation and growth. During the cooling process, high vapor pressure substances begin to condense and form very small particles, nucleation. These particles grow and aggregate with other particles and volatile substances, becoming microscopic particles that make up aerosols, tobacco smoke. This collection of fine particulate components is generally called tar. It is a chemically very complex mixture, containing thousands, about 4,000 to 7,000 or more, of chemical substances. The main components are these, and they contain carcinogens and highly irritating substances. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, phenols and cresols, aldehydes, inorganic substances, etc. Didn't you all have a question here? The question is whether the properties of tar differ depending on the type of tobacco. The answer is that if the leaf blend, blending ratio, and additives such as menthol and chocolate differ, the composition of precursor substances, nicotine, sugars, proteins, etc., contained in the leaves changes, so the properties of the tar produced during combustion also differ. Aren't you also interested in the difference with heated tobacco? Heated tobacco does not burn but heats, so the composition of the aerosol, tobacco smoke, generated is qualitatively very different from that of combustible tobacco. In general, harmful substances such as tar and carbon monoxide produced by combustion are significantly reduced, but nicotine and other volatile substances are said to be included. Something interesting has come up again. Don't smokers' rooms often have a yellowish tint and a peculiar smell? So, why does tar stick so easily to walls and furniture? Let's delve deeper. Principle of tobacco smoke particles sticking to walls and furniture, third-hand smoke. The phenomenon of tobacco smoke particles, tar, sticking to walls and furniture occurs through both particulate matter, aerosols, and volatile and semi-volatile organic compounds, SVOCs, mechanisms. Adhesion mechanism. Mechanism 1, Brownian motion and diffusion. Fine particles constantly move irregularly due to collisions with air molecules, Brownian motion. As a result of this movement, particles gradually move from areas of high air concentration to areas of low concentration, diffusion, eventually reaching and adhering to stationary wall and furniture surfaces. Mechanism 2, thermophoresis. Tobacco smoke is generated at high temperatures, and surrounding surfaces are at low temperatures. When particles are in a temperature gradient, a force acts to move them from the high temperature side to the low temperature side. When hot smoke particles approach relatively cool wall and furniture surfaces, this thermophoretic force pushes them against the surface, promoting adhesion. Mechanism 3, inertial impaction. Relatively large particles, or particles carried by air currents, due to their inertia, collide with surfaces such as furniture corners that change the direction of airflow, and adhere directly. Mechanism 4, electrostatic force. Tobacco smoke particles, or wall and furniture surfaces, can become electrostatically charged due to friction or airflow. Charged particles are attracted to surfaces with dissimilar charges by electrostatic attraction, promoting adhesion. Mechanism 5, molecular structural issues. Many volatile and semi-volatile organic compounds, nicotine, PAHs, etc., that make up tar adhere to surfaces due to intermolecular forces, van der Waals forces, dipole-dipole interactions. Adhesion occurs not by a single principle, but by a combination of the above multiple mechanisms, depending on particle size, temperature, airflow, surface material, and particle chemical composition, volatile or non-volatile. Again, let's return to the topic and learn about dust that enters from outdoors. The first is soil, and the second is pollen. These are probably easy to imagine. And the third is exhaust gas. This mainly refers to soot, fine particulate matter such as PM2.5, contained in exhaust gas from automobiles and factories. An interesting word has appeared again, PM2.5. We've heard of it, but what exactly is it? Let's delve deeper. PM2.5 is a general term for very small particulate matter among particles floating in the air, with a particle diameter of less than a micrometer, less than about 1/30th the thickness of a human hair. PM2.5 is not a single substance, but a mixture of extremely diverse chemical substances depending on the source and formation mechanism. Process of PM2.5 formation. Process 1, release of gaseous precursors. Gaseous substances, such as sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and VOCs, volatile organic compounds, are released from factories and automobiles. Process 2, oxidation. These gaseous substances react with strong oxidizers in the atmosphere, such as ozone and O radicals, hydroxyl groups, and are converted into more oxidized, lower vapor pressure, compounds. Process 3, droplet formation/condensation. The new substances formed cannot remain as gas at ambient temperatures and condense on existing particle surfaces or spontaneously nucleate to form new fine particles. Process 4, neutralization. Acidic substances such as sulfuric acid and nitric acid react with basic substances in the atmosphere such as ammonia, forming fine particles of inorganic salts, secondary generated particles such as ammonium sulfate, and ammonium nitrate. Through this process, gases that were not visible immediately after release undergo chemical changes in the atmosphere over time, producing a very large amount of PM2.5. Something interesting has also come up here: why can't human defense mechanisms prevent PM2.5 from entering? First, relatively large particles, such as PM10, are trapped by mucus and cilia in the nasal cavity, pharynx, and large bronchi, and are expelled from the body by ciliary movement, mucociliary transport system, coughing, phlegm. However, fine particles smaller than PM2.5 can bypass this ciliary barrier and reach the small bronchi, and then the alveoli where gas exchange takes place. In conclusion, although the body's defense mechanisms, phagocytosis and expulsion by macrophages, exist, fine particles such as PM2.5 bypass the defense system and reach deep parts, overworking the defense system, causing inflammation, thereby having harmful effects. Now, let's return to the examples of dust from outside. The fourth is salt particles. In coastal areas, fine salt crystals formed by the evaporation of seawater are carried by the wind. The fifth is volcanic ash. An interesting word has appeared again. What is volcanic ash? Is it some kind of ash? Let's investigate various things. Volcanic ash is different from common ash produced by chemical combustion, but the name ash is used because of its similar appearance and particle size. Common ash is the residue after wood burns, mainly in organic substances such as potassium carbonate. On the other hand, volcanic ash is a very fine fragment, microparticles, of rock that has been rapidly cooled and vitrified/fractured by magma during a volcanic eruption. Essentially, it is a fragment of vitrified rock pulverized by a volcanic eruption. What is dispersed as volcanic ash is mainly particles derived from magma and rock. Volcanic glass is the most important component, an amorphous silicate material that solidified without time to form mineral crystals when magma rapidly cooled on the surface or in the air. Mineral crystal fragments are fine fragments of minerals such as quartz, feldspar, pyroxene, and magnetite that had already crystallized in the magma before the eruption. Rock fragments are fragments of old rock around the volcanic conduit that were crushed by magma pressure during the eruption. Process of volcanic ash generation and dispersion. Process 1, magma ascent and vesiculation. As magma ascends from deep underground and pressure decreases, volatile components such as water vapor and carbon dioxide dissolved in the magma rapidly grow as bubbles, vesiculation. Process 2, explosive fragmentation. As vesiculation progresses and the pressure of the bubbles inside the magma exceeds the viscosity and strength of the surrounding magma, the magma ruptures explosively. At this time, the liquid magma becomes volcanic glass, and the internal crystals and surrounding rocks are also pulverized. Process 3, formation and dispersal of eruption column. Volcanic ash and hot gases, mixed together, form an eruption column and ascend to the upper atmosphere. Process 4, fallout and dispersal. Volcanic ash separated from the eruption column is carried over a wide area by the wind and falls due to gravity. Because the fallout speed differs depending on the particle size and density, pumice falls close to the crater, while volcanic ash falls farther away. Again, let's return to the topic and look at the last example of dust from outside. The last is cosmic dust. These include very small amounts of dust from space. An interesting word has appeared again: what is cosmic dust? What kind of substance is it? Let's delve deeper. Cosmic dust is a general term for the smallest units of interstellar matter, very small solid particles with diameters of only a few molecules, that exist in space. Next, let's list some types of cosmic dust. 1. Interstellar dust. Dust that spreads in the interstellar space of the galaxy, between stars. It is formed when gas released from supernova remnants and red giants cools and condenses. The main components are silicate minerals and carbonaceous substances, graphite, etc. 2. Interplanetary dust. Dust that exists in the solar system. It mainly originates from particles released when comets evaporate as they approach the Sun, and fragments created by collisions between asteroids. 3. Micrometeorites. These are particles that fall to Earth. Most of them are interplanetary dust from comets and asteroids in the solar system that entered Earth's atmosphere and reached the surface without melting. In particular, presolar particles are remnants of stars that existed before the formation of the solar system, and are said to have very unique isotopic ratios, for example, extremely heavy carbon isotopes, not found on Earth. Until now, only the negative aspects of dust have been focused on, but it actually plays an important role in nature. Surprising, isn't it? One important role is that clouds in the sky are formed with dust as their nuclei. Conversely, water vapor in the air cannot become water droplets without fine particles like dust, condensation nuclei. An interesting question has come up here: why can't water vapor in the air become water droplets without fine particles like dust? Reasons why water vapor does not become water droplets without condensation nuclei: dust, the process by which water vapor in the air cools and changes into liquid water droplets, clouds or fog, is called condensation. Fine particles called condensation nuclei are essential for this condensation. For water vapor to condense and become water droplets, water molecules must gather sufficiently to form a stable liquid mass, but there is a large energy barrier, surface tension, to this. When water molecules spontaneously gather to form very small water droplets, the surface tension acting on their spherical surface becomes a strong force that compresses the water droplets and tries to evaporate them again. The smaller the water droplet, the lower the ratio of volume to surface area, so the evaporative pressure due to this surface tension becomes very high, and the water droplet is unstable. For these unstable water droplets to grow and become a stable size, extreme supersaturation is required, which rarely occurs in nature. Therefore, dust particles provide a foothold for water molecules to condense. Water molecules can adsorb to the surface of these solid particles and begin to condense with the effect of surface tension significantly reduced. In particular, particles that are easily soluble in water, such as salt and sulfates, attract water molecules even when the surrounding humidity is unsaturated, forming tiny solution droplets. This is called the suppression of the Kelvin effect. Therefore, condensation nuclei act as a catalyst that prevents the extreme supersaturation required for water molecules to overcome surface tension and become stable droplets, allowing water droplets to grow even under humidity conditions achievable in nature. Clouds are collections of countless microscopic water droplets and ice crystals formed by this process. Very interesting, isn't it? Finally, I would like to present one more such effect and conclude this exploration. It is said to be instrumental in supporting the Amazon ecosystem. Sand from the Sahara Desert in Africa crosses the Atlantic Ocean on the westerlies and falls on the Amazon rainforest in South America, and the nutrients such as phosphorus contained in the sand support the Amazon ecosystem. From such stories, we can see the circulation of resources. How was your journey? Did you encounter any new truths? Leave a comment about what you learned and what you've researched, and leave evidence of your learning. Verbalizing is a good way to output your thoughts. See you on our next journey.